I think is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And if you want to know why the American people don't trust huge corporations, it's because of companies like yours.
A Senate hearing turned into a brutal corporate accountability showdown when a senator confronted a Johnson & Johnson executive over allegations surrounding asbestos in baby powder, billions of dollars in jury awards, opioid settlements, and a controversial bankruptcy strategy. The questioning focused on one explosive issue: did Johnson & Johnson create a separate company and use bankruptcy proceedings to limit its exposure to tens of thousands of lawsuits? The executive repeatedly defended the company's position, but the senator wasn't satisfied. Let's break down everything that happened as the questioning erupts into chaotic moments.
Let me ask you about the Ingham case. I'm sure you remember that case. That was the one litigated in my state, in the state of Missouri. 22 plaintiffs who alleged that your baby powder caused ovarian cancer. By the way, didn't the FDA find that there were traces of asbestos in your baby powder?
The FDA outsourced to a lab that found asbestos, a trace amount of asbestos in one lot, and 150 studies thereafter were done of that batch and found no asbestos. And if there was asbestos in that...
Okay. That's quite the word salad. But if we just compress, I think the answer is yes, right? Did the FDA find that there were traces of asbestos in your baby powder?
No,
yes.
Ultimately...
No? The Third Circuit got that wrong? I just read it in their opinion.
Ultimately, if the...
Wait. Answer my question. The Third Circuit was wrong about that? I just read it in their opinion. They said the FDA found traces of asbestos in your baby powder.
The FDA outsourced to a lab that found a trace amount of asbestos.
Okay, so the answer is yes. So let's go back to the Ingham case then. I think it's a relevant question. Do you remember what the verdict was in the Ingham case, where the jury found what they awarded?
As the chair properly stated, it was initially $4.6 billion for a consolidated trial of 22 plaintiffs that was reduced thereafter to $2.2 billion.
$2.24 billion finally on appeal. That's a lot of money. That's one case, 22 plaintiffs, 20 at the end of the day because of the appeal. You were facing how many additional cases after that?
We have thousands of cases.
Tens of thousands, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So one set of plaintiffs gets $2+ billion. You have the potential for, by that math, tens of billions more, right? Who knows
No,
what?
not necessarily, because recall, most claimants lose and receive zero.
So what you do is, after the Ingham case, your company panics, and what you do is you then decide, oh my gosh, we can't possibly do this. We don't want to pay these plaintiffs this kind of money. So you then create a separate company for the sole purpose of declaring bankruptcy and making sure that the tens of thousands of other plaintiffs get scraps.
The proposal that we had would never succeed and would not have succeeded but for the support of the claimants that had made the proposed resolution. We went to
I have no idea what you're saying. I thought it was plaintiffs who sued you that went all the way to the Third Circuit where they said you couldn't do what you're trying to do. You're saying that you're saying the plaintiffs wanted this? They like the Texas two-step? The plaintiffs want to be denied their day in court and denied recovery?
The majority of claimants, counsel representing the majority of claimants, yes, do want this resolution because most claimants receives nothing.
Let's talk about what you did.
That was an aberrant one-off
Let's talk about what you
verdict.
did. First of all, I think it's outrageous, the idea that plaintiffs want to be denied their day in court. That's why they took you to court. That's why the Third Circuit ruled against you. Let's talk about what you did. Here is, according to the Third Circuit, an abbreviated version of how you tried to avoid actually paying out liability. Old Consumer, which was one of your subsidiaries, merged into Chenango Zero LLC, a Texas limited liability company, wholly owned subsidiary of J&J, with Chenango Zero surviving the merger. Chenango Zero then effected a divisional merger under the Texas Business Code by which two new Texas limited liabilities were created, Chenango 1 and Chenango 2, and Chenango Zero ceased to exist. Then Chenango 1 converted into a North Carolina limited liability company and changed its name to LTL. Chenango 2 then merged into Curahee Holding Company, the direct parent company of LTL. Curahee survived the merger and then changed its name to Johnson & Johnson Consumer Incorporated. Are you here to tell us that you think that this is a great way to proceed and is fair to the consumers who had asbestos in their baby powder?
Indeed, the claimants after that transaction had access to more recourse than they did before, which is exactly
recourse?
which is exactly
You
the reason.
created, in the words of the Third Circuit, you created a company with the sole purpose of sending it into bankruptcy. So you could limit your liability. Here's what I don't understand. Johnson & Johnson is a hugely profitable company, isn't it?
This is where we're talking about a subsidiary.
Oh, I know,
who's in
but
a
you own them
lost
all. You own them
position.
all. So aren't you hugely profitable? I mean, how much money did you make on the COVID vaccine, for example?
Nothing, actually. We made nothing.
You got
on it.
billions of dollars in subsidies from the federal government. Taxpayers have paid you billions. How much did you make on opioids? All those opioids you prescribed? How much did you make on that over the years?
I do not have that information.
Really? I thought it was curious when you said that your company credo was to always put the public first.
It is.
Was that what you were doing when you were lying to doctors and patients about the addictive nature of opioids? Is that why your company agreed to billions of dollars in settlements with states and other localities because of what you did to further the opioid crisis?
We prevailed in the only 2 cases that were tried. and
You
the
settled
jury
for billions of
determined.
dollars, and I brought one of those suits, and it's the proudest thing I ever did as Attorney General of the state of Missouri. Your company has made billions of dollars on American consumers, multiple times lying to them. And the idea that you now are looking actively for ways to limit the liability for further torts you have committed against the American people, I think is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And if you want to know why the American people don't trust huge corporations, it's because of companies like yours. And I would just say to my colleagues, if you want to know why private rights of action are so darn important and why we need to use them against the big tech companies, this is the reason why. One jury verdict got $4.6 billion. That's a hammer. Companies fear it. They fear it. It's why they're trying to distort the bankruptcy code to avoid it. We need to give more Americans the ability to get that recourse in court. And we need to change the bankruptcy code to make sure that companies like J&J can't avoid it.
Don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscribers button for more political and controversial showdowns.